everyone, how's it going? I'm DK.
I'm Rizzo.
And I'm Zero, and today in Anime Reaction watch the 7th episode of Shuumatsu no Izetta.
If you want to check out our reaction to the 7th episode of Shuumatsu no Izetta, hit that link in the description below.
And make sure to give us feedback in the comment section because we love hearing from you.
And as always, if you like what you see, subscribe to Otaku Saga, and don't forget to like and share our videos. And thanks for watching.
So, in this episode of Shuumatsu no Izetta,
I was actually pleasantly surprised that they didn't fly like Izetta's fucking thing the whole way.
well, they actually did briefly talk about it in the previous episode when they were talking about going to Not Britain. Because basically they can't fly it the whole way. Like, just the way that the magical lines work and everything, they can't. Plus, I'd imagine that'd be pretty uncomfortable to fly that thing the whole way.
Well, the reason why I say that is because so they get to Not Britain, and they crash a meeting between a bunch of country leaders.
Actually, they didn't technically crash it. They were the special guests, matter of fact.
Well, only two people from that group, or the host.
Yeah,
hosts.
It's Lord Redford.
Yeah. Only they actually knew that she was a special guest. That's why I say
surprise guest. There we go.
That's why I say crash.
Okay.
But anyway, as all these people were trying to figure out what they're doing about this new carrier that just literally... Let me pull something out of my ass real quick. Here you go.
Okay.
Here's a carrier for you to target.
Here's your bad guy of the week.
Yeah.
Or something. Your target of the week.
I can understand where that was coming from, though, because for Ildstad, the carrier is a complete non-issue, so they wouldn't even focus on any naval forces whatsoever,
right?
Because they're a landlocked nation. But so when they end up going to Not Britain, it's a much larger issue.
For Not Britain, not France, not Norway, yeah, basically the rest of the Allies. Or I mean,
I find it very hard to take it seriously when they keep calling. I think it was not Norway that they kept calling. It's either not Norway, not Sweden, or
somewhere not Scandinavia.
Yeah, but actually, it's somewhere in Scandinavia because they did actually name drop the Scandinavian peninsula. But they kept calling it the Kingdom of Nord, and I can only think of Skyrim. Anyway, but yeah, it would be a much larger, it would be an issue for those nations, especially Not Britain, being an island nation.
Yeah.
So, basically, I'm just saying I can see why the carrier just came up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a basic issue. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, it's for Fine and Izetta, it's basically, we scratch your back, you scratch ours. We'll get rid of the carrier for you. You send troops to Ildstad.
And that's what they decided to do. But the problem I have with that is when Fine and Izetta show up, they say that getting to Britain was a lot easier with Izetta in tow. And that's what I mean by I'm surprised that they didn't just fly themselves, because apparently they flew somewhere.
Maybe
between aircrafts.
Maybe part of the way. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember honestly. Like, I think they said something about it in the previous episode, but I kind of zonked out.
Yeah, it was like the end of the
their
episode.
Entire story in that episode.
I would see them all up there, on the top of a mountain, all of a sudden, and I do mean sudden, so maybe just dropped out of our minds.
Anyway, as it turns out, the not Germany agents set that up as a trap for Izetta.
They probably
completely.
They probably leaked that information on purpose and posed it as a pain in the ass for everybody. And it's actually rather amusing that one of the leaders that was in the room was like, "Why are we paying attention to this again?"
Because we have to.
Because the plot demands.
Well, an aircraft carrier is a huge military asset. I mean, even today it's a huge asset. So you have to pay attention to it.
Technically speaking, before World War II, it wasn't considered that big of an asset, but particularly the war in the Pacific proved aircraft carriers to be very tremendous military assets. So I can kind of see like they might be considering it a huge military asset, but in the war in the Atlantic and the North Sea, it was still more or less battleships that were the main thing there.
Okay.
So
makes sense actually. So you get ships like the Bismarck instead of ships like whatever they named this carrier.
yeah, you don't really hear about a lot of carriers in that section of the war, but it is. I mean, carriers are still a huge military asset. So.
Yeah. It's just I think that this might have been like the first carrier. Like I think it was a prototype that they were running with. I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't have been the first carrier if they're going off of real history, but
And it looks a lot better than a lot of carriers of the day, which were a lot of them were just like converted oil rig or oil tankers.
I think this carrier was also a converted ship too.
This one specific looked like it was a converted battleship.
Yeah.
It
It had a large displacement, that's for sure.
It had a large amount of artillery, which you don't find on traditional carriers. Carriers aren't heavily armed. Their armaments are usually the aircraft.
Like anti-air and just...
Well, I mean, they do have anti-air, but it's not quite to battleship standards.
Yeah.
Battleship or destroyers.
Yeah.
And that's why it seemed more equipped like a outfitted battleship because there was a lot of weaponry on it for a carrier.
That's some pretty big guns on it for a carrier. Yeah.
I'm not saying that no carrier has any weapons. Yes, they have weapons, but it was just a lot of weapons that aren't normally there.
Don't fly next to them uninvited. We'll just say that.
Right. Look up the phalanx. Anyway, but yeah, so it was a trap. We get to see Otto's new aircraft in action.
Yeah, the upgrade from the totally not 109.
Which they totally call 109s.
They forgot the BF though.
Right.
So.
More like BS, am I right? But yeah, so it's basically a Gullwing 109 that has a better engine, I guess, and more weapons.
Pizza kicked in, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he totally keeps up with Izetta.
Yep.
The good load of the really cool dogfight.
Which I have a hard time believing. And the only reason why is because a plane has to bank a turn. Izetta ideally should be able to just tick.
Well, there are some planes out there that can turn really, really sharp. So he did state that it is a very difficult plane to fly, which kind of supports the idea that the plane is very, very nimble.
Another thing to consider, Izetta's not a trained military pilot.
Yeah, but I mean, you do see her like she'll turn and then start going that way.
Yeah, but she definitely goes more by like instinct than by training. I guarantee you can't tell you what an Immelman maneuver is.
No.
So they.
But yeah, I don't know. I would probably say that the Allies would benefit from giving Izetta some pilot training.
And we can also have a really nice little training montage to boot, and that'd be nice to see, I think.
But like, I know that the Eurofighter Typhoon, I think that one has a very weird balance, and it's usually I think I heard what pilots said it's always just on the cusp of like of stalling, or it was just
or
on the
like tail spinning or something.
Yeah, it was just on the cusp of not being balanced, and because of that, they were allowed to essentially turn on a dime.
Well, newer, what do they call them? 5th generation fighters like the Typhoon, the F-22 Raptor are like that.
Typhoon's not a 5th generation.
Oh, is it 4th?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. But newer fighters are like that, and because, well, computer technology keep them stable. But yeah, that way they can perform those maneuvers really quickly anyway.
Well, yeah, and then when you're talking about fighters from World War II, there's a lot of disadvantages that they have, as opposed to even fighters from, say, like the Korean War era. There's so many more disadvantages that they have. I think it was actually after Korean War, but when they started putting hydraulics for the actual for the control surfaces, then you start getting more nimble aircraft as well. Which is part of the reason why there's actually aircraft from World War II that could break the sound barrier in a dive, but you can't control them afterwards because you literally don't have enough strength to change the control surfaces.
Right.
And then what were they? The F-5 Sabre could do it too. But that was an early jet aircraft. But yeah, I don't know what would make his aircraft so different.
Especially because it's still a prop plane.
Yeah.
And my understanding of aerodynamics and things like that, a prop plane should always have to bank a certain amount of area because of the way that the prop is designed.
No, it's not necessarily that. Because you'll get like if you watch the Red Bull Aero races or whatever they're called, those aircraft can turn on a dime, and they're prop aircraft. Well, it just depends. It depends on quite a number of factors, actually.
Yeah, I'd imagine though that a modern day racing aircraft is a lot more maneuverable than a World War II fighter.
Yeah, and then plus those aircraft are like really, really light.
Fiberglass, carbon fiber, all the.
Whereas his would be made of like,
a steel frame and aluminum surface.
Yeah, pretty much. Like it would be made to take some punishment. And then plus you got to consider all the weapons that he has on board as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just all of that adds weight. He probably has some protection around the cockpit just in case he gets shot.
And you gotta make the parts cheaply because you gotta mass produce these things too.
Well, not necessarily.
This one's a prototype.
This one's a prototype, so it's probably completely handmade.
Fair enough.
But
anyhow.
Sorry about going on a rant about grapes. I know that we shouldn't take anime too seriously. This is,
It's what we do.
This series is really good, but it has some moments where I'm just like, what? Why did they do that? Like the whole pie thing from the last episode. It's like,
or the tickle torture
necessary?
from this episode.
Actually,
It popped out of nowhere.
I don't mind the tickle torture.
I don't mind it. It just popped out of nowhere. Is all.
I don't mind the Yuri moments as much.
I'm really not a fan of Yuri, so I just kind of like glossed over that part.
I do think that after last episode that the Yuri moments are going to be a lot more noticeable. Just because last episode was so fucking full. Way too much pie.
But the other thing that I'm really kind of getting a little irritated about is how they're making Berkman the main,
the major, the not SS.
Yeah, how they're making him like just know everything for no reason. Like he sees Izetta dive underneath the water and then come back up once, and he instantly knows, oh, I found out her weakness.
Not just him, but Rislet as well. At least start on the path of figuring out as soon as he saw her take that dive.
Well,
kind of makes this duo a little too intellectually OP.
Yeah. From his perspective, though, I mean, he was watching her like go from like full speed to being so fast, and then dropping the torpedoes, and then dropping out of the sky. I could almost see where he's like, "What's going on?" But Berkman literally just walked up and went, "Oh, I know what her weakness is."
I see the ending.
Pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I wish that it would show him doing a little bit more figuring out, rather than just building him up as this like super smart villain.
I would have liked to see that also. In the previous episode where Berkman gets access to Division 9, the Reich's occultic research division. I would have liked to see a little bit more scenes in that. Maybe meet some of the people who work there, research some materials they have stored there. It could explain how he gets all this knowledge, but they just skip it completely. They just show him in the factory and then cut. That's it.
Yep.
So,
but sorry if you heard that beeping. That's our coffee pot. It's very annoying.
Desperate for a role on our show.
Yeah. But yeah, and then at the end, we actually had this gripe at the end of the reaction. He basically talks about what's in the basement of the old castle in Ildstad, and I'm literally sitting there going, how the fuck does he know that? There's no reason that he would know that. There's like 4 characters that we've met that know about this.
Yeah, I mean, and you did hear them mention an agent named Lawrence, which is totally not that one guy who was in the same division with Jonas. And this is going to be a really disturbing fan theory. What if someone in Fine's inner circle is a double agent?
Well, that's kind of the only thing that would explain what's going on here.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then first instinct would be that Reich is a double agent.
I really doubt that it's Reich, though.
I know.
I don't want Reich, but the only other people that would even have an inkling of what's going on with that is Bianca and Elvira, and Elvira is still a huge amount of stretch to get her to actually know what that is.
All of them. I mean, like I said, that whole theory is a stretch, but
well, Bianca is a stretch to be a double agent. Period.
Yeah, she's a loyal bodyguard.
She's more of the really loyal character.
Those are the only few people that could possibly know about it.
Yeah, so if it's not someone in Fine's inner circle, then there had to be a discovery made in Division 9 that they just skipped. Didn't even consider showing.
Yeah, that's the only other explanation that I can think is maybe, well, I mean, we did see somebody in a tube, which could very well be another witch.
I think it is another witch because that's exactly how we found Izetta when we met her in episode 1.
Yep.
But another witch might have knowledge of that room.
Okay.
So the only thing that I can think is that Division 9 has had knowledge that there's something in the basement of that castle.
Okay, this is actually starting to make more sense.
That makes a lot more sense, but like you were saying, DK, it would have been nice to actually have seen, some research go on last episode instead of the pies.
Yeah, I mean, totally agree with that. I mean, just show, you don't even have to reveal it, just show, Berkman and Rislet just looking through, trying to find something. That would have been much better than talking about fucking pies.
But
I mean, pie's cool, but goddamn.
I also have one other gripe, and that's only because I didn't want to say anything right at the time. When Izetta flew into the bay, she was followed by a barrage of bullets from literally nowhere. Literally.
Yeah.
Because as soon as she turned into the bay,
there was a bunch of green streaks behind her.
And then she gets a bunch of green streaks from in front of her, and she's surprised. So I think that was just a animation error, but it was a really bad one.
Yeah.
Didn't consider where the fire's coming from when they drew it. They just wanted to draw it.
Pretty much.
Anyway, I think that we should go ahead and cut this here. So,
I think so.
Let us know what you thought of the anime, what you thought of our reaction in the comment section below.
Yep, thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't.
But that's gonna do it for this episode of Anime Reaction. I'm DK.
I'm Zero.
And I'm Rizzo.
See you next time.
And go ahead and click on my face to go to our Otaku Saga Talks, the good, the bad, and the otaku.
Click on my face to go to Otaku Saga Gaming, our gaming channel.
And click on the waifu to subscribe to Otaku Saga and go to our new and improved Patreon.